And it hurts for me to think about what life could possibly be like. And it hurts for me to think about what life could possibly be like.
What's up guys, I'm Drake Maroc. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering The Kid Laroi Wanted You, Without You. And we have a preset that you can download from my website. This is it, we're looking at it here. And this is my cover of his song. This is how to cover an acoustic hip hop song like his style. Acoustic hip hop song like he does in his new one. This is hard because you gotta have full vocals. They can't be harsh, but at the same time, they gotta be powerful and hip hop style. So let's take a look at what we're going to be mixing.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed internally, left here without you, without you. And it hurts for me to think about what life could possibly be like without you, without you.
All right, so there's our mix. We also have the ad-libs, which you can see we have mixed. This is included in the preset along with all my raw vocals and the beat. So you guys can get that and have all these files to practice with. Or most importantly, you can save these as presets for your own vocals that you can have on any song you want. You can hear they're pretty powerful, but at the same time, they're controlled.
And it hurts for me to think about.
And the raw vocals sound like this.
And it hurts for me to think about what life could possibly be like without you.
And then the final mix.
And it hurts for me to think about what life could possibly be like without you.
So it's not that huge of a difference, but obviously in the song, that's the whole point. You want those raw vocals, but you want them to sound good, polished, controlled, tuned, all that. So let's dive into what we did. In this preset, we have starting off with a Fruity Limiter. This is an Ambiasonics reducer. This is what I use in all my videos. If you've seen it, either this or the NS1, this is just taking out and acting as a noise gate. And then we have our Autotune. This is Autotune 8.1. You can use whatever Autotune you own or don't own. And this is set to A minor, but we have a retune speed that's pretty slow. We have some flex tune and we have 100% humanized. So if I turn everything off and we just listen to what Autotune is doing, take a look, especially during the falsetto part. This is with off.
Be like without you.
And then on.
Be like without you.
It's almost just relaxing to the ears to hear. It's barely off, but this one is just completely on. And you can turn it up if you want. I would recommend keeping it lower, keeping it slower, and that way your vocal sounds more natural. And people do like less tuned stuff if you're doing something more acoustic, so keep that in mind for target audiences as well. Next, we're coming into an RCompresser. This is hitting at 4.5 basically. We've got a somewhat quick attack and a little slower release. We've got a -7.5 threshold, and this is off and on of that.
Be like without you.
On.
Be like without you.
Especially during this first part.
You cut out a piece of me.
Off.
You cut out a piece of me.
You hear those dynamics being removed, which is important to keep the vocal level. That's done before we come into our EQ, which is the Pro Q3. Really good reverb. And you see we have some EQ on the low end, but we also have some high-end harshness. Some things with my mic that I really wanted to get rid of. There's this especially brittle high end that comes with my Aston Spirit microphone, which I recorded this on, and you can hear that right here. As well as this one.
You to me.
Really quiet, but you can hear the difference in there. And those are some really sharp frequencies that I just took down about -6. In the low end, we're doing just a little bit of bump. We're cutting all the way down to about 150 and then doing a slope down to 40. This is keeping the low ends, and you can see we're not taking too much here, about 300 hertz.
You cut out a piece of me.
We're keeping that, but that's the boxy frequency. So we're making sure that we just take out a little of that. Now, of course, the biggest part with this style of music is your mic. Your voice and your mic are literally the things that are, like the raw audio that is going to be heard. So if your mic's off or your voice is off or your singing's off, that's going to stand out so much in these types of mixes. So unless you're, for example, comfortable singing live, you know, you're going to have to really work on your vocals themselves and, you know, get a good mic to be able to get this clean vocal. Of course, you could do it with the worst mic, but it's not going to sound as good, obviously. And there's a limit to how much you can correct, because there's something about having that raw audio that's clean that you can mix versus just trying to make that through a bunch of EQ and processing if you don't have a good mic to begin with. So keep that in mind. That's a big part of this style of vocal. Obviously, he's recording on the, I think he's recording on the C800, might be a Newman, not sure. Obviously, they're great mics. Either way, that's something to keep in mind, and don't get discouraged. If you don't have that, you can still get close, and that's what this template is trying to help you do. We're going into a multi-band compressor next, which is doing, you can see we kept more of the low ends. Okay, we're gonna listen to this. Take a listen without multi-band.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed.
On.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed internally, left here without.
That really did something, hopefully. So we're going to be diving into that right now. Okay, let's take a look here. We're doing some threshold of -26 on the low end. So we're definitely taking it down, and you can see when this audio meter comes up,
You cut out a piece of me and
it's just hitting the top of our threshold. That's how you want it to be. Next, we got a little bit lower here. It's going from 250 to 4,000.
you cut out a piece.
This is -12. And then we have our mid-high frequency, which is hitting -32.
You cut out a piece of me.
That's what's doing a little bit more of the chop. If we solo that, listen.
You cut out a piece of me.
That's the frequency that you might expect in a lot of the mics that you're probably going to be mixing with. So keep that in mind and really control those frequencies dynamically, not through EQ, but through multi-band compression, because you want it to adapt to different parts in your voice as you sing different parts of the song. We have the full high end, really hitting.
Eternally left here.
Right? But that way we're controlling all the frequencies, and we have different methodologies for each one. So hopefully I explained that. Next, we come into a Deesser. This is doing -25.
You cut out a piece of me and
Again, just hitting. He obviously has a bright vocal, but it's controlled. So we're making sure the Deesser hits considerably hard. We're hitting like -6. And then we're coming into our saturation. This is Fab Filter Saturn, a beast of a VST. And this is doing just the default setting at 10%. So this is going to be giving us that tube saturation, which is important for the Kid Laroi because he has that raspy voice in the first place, but it also helps the song be more full. So listen to that, and I'm gonna crank this up.
you cut out a piece of me and now I bleed into.
All right, it's like a guitar amp, but for your voice, and we're keeping it at 10%. Now, what if you don't have Fab Filter Saturn? Well, in the template, I've included an alternate option for you to use for saturation, because I know Fab Filter Saturn, not everybody has, and it's a little bit more niche than normal. So what you can do is just forget about Saturn and just unsolo, just turn on the saturation option too. This is Fruity Blood Overdrive, which is the default built-in saturator in FL Studio, and we have this mixed in. So this is doing that same effect, as you can hear.
You cut out a piece of me and now I.
Right, and it's a little bit more warm. You can fix that with EQ. Actually, here we go. Boom, do that. I'll update the preset, and wow. Then what you're gonna do is just mix the volume in for your vocals. But I have this all hooked up for you so you can have an option for saturation that's not Fab Filter Saturn. I'm not editing that stutter out, I'm too tired. Next, we have SSL Channel. This is kind of doing a final polish, and we're doing a little bit of compression to start off. We have a filter here hitting at 74 just to make sure we've cut the lows We do have some bleeding through here, so just to make sure that's controlled. You can hit this at the very beginning when you bring in your mic, or you could do it now. We're hitting at 2 ratio for compression with the threshold all the way to -20. That's leveling it out. Watch this meter.
You cut out a piece of me and now I...
Leveling it out really steady and slow, something like a 2-way might do. And we have our next part, which is an EQ. This is hitting, and we've toggled a bell. So this is hitting at 6, and that's getting the very tip of the high end. The bell is the little sharp thing. And that is what's getting us the air in the vocals, which he has. So let's go ahead and turn off the SSL and then turn it on. Listen to what difference that makes in our mix.
You cut out a piece of me. You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed. You cut out a piece of me and...
With the beat off.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed.
On.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed.
Right, really getting that air, that final polish, that radio sound. Now we're also bumping the lows a little bit because you can hear we need to make sure we get that full vocal. And that's one of the reasons we're boosting the lows, making sure we really kind of get up that low end that makes his voice have a lot of presence in our mix. So what we're doing is we're hitting 60. Now you might ask, well, why are you hitting 60 if you just cut out 75? Well, it's a slope and it's gonna bring in not only that frequencies that aren't there, but it's also gonna bring up the ones that we do have above 75 to get that full out mix without bringing up the ones that, the frequencies that we don't like, which is the things we cut out here. Now, another way you could do this is you can use Vitamin. By the way, this is also another great VST to use. We do not have it on this mix, but just a recommendation. Next and lastly, other than our Deesser, we have our reverb. This is Choir Bright Hall with the Fab Filter Pro R. Now you can replicate this in any reverb you have. Really, the reverb time is just 2.5 seconds. We've got a pretty far distance. We got a stereo width, a little EQ here, cutting the very lows and also a little bit of the highs, making sure it's a really bright reverb. So let's listen to that. This is at 5%. Let's crank that up.
You cut out a...
Bright. So let's turn that back down. Why can't I not spin this knob? All right, 5.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed internally left here.
Just really subtle, almost acting as kind of what a plate verb would do, just giving a little more space, except we're using a larger reverb. Lastly, to finish this off, we have a Deesser. This is hitting -20 and watch what that does.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed internally.
Really just that final polish, it's -3. So overall in the mix, take a listen.
You cut out a piece of me and now I bleed internally left here without you.
Okay, there's our vocal, but what about the other elements such as the ad-libs? So let's listen to these ad-libs. He has a very kind of ambient sound in his ad-libs that I've recreated, and take a listen to this solo. Okay, so what does that no sound like unmixed? This. Okay, that's our raw vocal. So what are we doing in this ad-lib mix? I've tried to use more fruity plugins just so you guys can replicate it easier, especially the ones who don't have the professional plugins. We have the limiter and the Autotune on as we've talked about before, but we're coming into our EQ, and this is doing a radio type pass. We're really keeping in the like 1.5 hertz sound, and you see we're cutting down to 200. And then just, I mean, we're really just cutting off from 1.5 all the way down to 10. That's giving us this radio effect. Next we have Maximus, which is our Deesser. This is on the Deesser split band preset. And you can see it's just doing a little bit of de-essing for those harsh frequencies. Just taming, make sure we don't have any popping through. We did do a heavy EQ cut, so we don't really need a Deesser on this, but we're keeping it there for safety before we move into our fruity compressor. This is our first compressor leveling everything out, and this is what we're hitting hard. See, we got an 8 ratio, super quick attack, super quick release, a threshold of -43, and we're bumping the gain up 15 decibels. So listen to this now. We'll turn that down. Maybe we'll turn it up.
No, no. Ooh.
This is a brick wall compressor, really leveling it out. And since they are ad-libs, we can do that. Before we move into the multi-band compressor, you want to make sure that those vocals are leveled out and EQ'd, which we've done. Now in here, we're using Fruity multi-band compressor. Watch these knobs.
No, no. Ooh.
Okay, we're doing reduction on the high end, but we're also having the gain down. There's no numbers on this, so just this first dot, the last one, and then up in the middle. You can copy these settings for multi-band compressor. This is doing what a C6 would do, except in a different way, but that's leveling out the vocal, especially with the high end. As you can see, the audio meter went up a lot on that one. That's before we go into our sound godizer set to C, which is a great preset. It's not as bright as A or kind of full, but it has more of that warm frequency, which is perfect for what our EQ is doing. So this is what that's doing off and on.
No, no.
On.
No, no.
Really obviously adding a lot of power. This is a compressor, limiter, maximizer, deesser, whatnot. And it's getting a really cool effect. Not effect, just a mix on the vocal that we want. Next we have a chorus. This is going to be acting as a doubler. We have it mixed in here about 25%. These are our settings for the chorus. Listen to what that does. Wear headphones if you don't have any.
No, no. Ooh.
Okay, that's spreading it out, giving us that stereo effect. We also have the stereo knob all the way up on this, which is giving us, I believe, 100%, 150, I mean. And that's right before we go into the reverb. This is the last element of it, other than this EQ, which is kind of doing the same effect we had on our Fruity EQ2, but just controlling that even more, as well as any frequencies that start slipping in through with the reverb, a sound godizer, or multi-band compressor. This is coming in at -8 on the low end, starting at 1.3. And the high one is 16. It's doing the slope at -18, just giving us that high shelf. Just giving us that shelf, but that's after the reverb. So the reverb is the Chapel 2 preset. This is what we have on all of our settings. You can copy and again, put this to the reverb you're using if you're not using Fab Filter Pro R. This is the reverb off and on.
No, no.
On.
No, no.
Key to the mix, because we need to make sure that these are very kind of ambient, and so this is what that's helping us to. This is mixed to -10, and all together with our mix, listen to how the ad-libs sound.
Without you, and it hurts for without.
Again at the end. So what we're doing on mastering is what I had in the tutorial that I just released on mastering. I made this preset before, but I decided why not include the free mastering template in this project file as well. So when you download this, you will also get the mastering template. So we've got a C6, a 2A SSL channel, and an L3 LL. These are all effects on the master that you can have already and then mix to your vocal and your style. And these are all set up for you. Again, this is from the free mastering template you can download in the link in the description as well, just so you can have this, or you can hop over and grab this template from my website. Overall, that's it on how to get that acoustic sound like the Kid Laroi and without you. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and it brought you value. Make sure to leave me requests for tutorials in the description, and also join the Discord. We've got a ton of people in that. People are getting feedback and help all the time, as well as collaborating and talking music. Join that. It's a dope place to be. I'll see you guys next time. The link for this template is in the description. It's $9 if you want to support me and get all the raw files, as well as the mix and the project file. You can do that on my website in the link below. Other than that, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. I'm Jack Rock.